think it worked out about the way we thought it would work out. The guys that we lost, we anticipated losing off of our current team and with our incoming guys, and the guys that we anticipated getting here are coming in. So we feel very good about the incoming group and also about the returning group. Anytime you have losses like a Logan Davidson and a Kyle Wilkie and those types of guys, Grayson Bird being a senior, but with the juniors especially, Owen Griffith, key piece out of the bullpen, and Logan and Wilkie on the offensive side of things. Those are big pieces to try to replace. But we do have a good group of incoming guys. Had two guys drafted that are coming in that turned down the opportunity to play professional baseball. Had another young man in Mac England that could have received significant draft interest, but I think the signability was very high. He really valued the opportunity to come to school first and could potentially become a high draft pick out of here when his time comes to look at it again. So we feel very good about the class we got coming in and feel good about the group we got coming back, and just ready to obviously now move forward in recruiting for the 2020 and 2021 classes, and it never ends.
Are things on schedule for the rehabs for Strider and Raphael?
Yes, both of those guys are here this summer. Carter Raffield, Spencer Strider are both here, along with Kier Meredith. Those guys are staying here this summer and are all on programs to get them healthy. Carter and Spencer it'll be January before we get a chance to get those guys on the mound facing hitters. So it's going to be a little while for those two guys. The fall will be very important for those two guys as far as their throwing program, their lifting routine, those types of things, just trying to get them back to 100%. But it'll be January really before we know the extent of will they be ready when the season starts, just based on the nature of the Tommy John surgery. Kier is here all summer, just working out, rehabbing, just trying to get his body ready for the fall so that he can hopefully be able to practice a full fall with us and see what he can do.
Will you be able to get a medical red shirt for Kier, or do you know that yet?
We're obviously we're working towards that, so we'll see. A lot of it's pretty cut and dry on things like that as far as the medical red shirts, just based on the amount of games that you played and the nature of the injury. But we anticipate him being able to get it, but I don't have anything official on that yet.
Do you feel really good about what you've got coming back with Holt and Carson? I mean, got some pretty good arms coming back.
We do.
Those two guys healthy.
We do, and again, just looking at it this morning, I don't know if I realized to the extent of the amount of pitching that we do have coming back. Again, we lost some key pieces offensively, but when you start looking at it, between Sharp, Askew, Clark, Weatherly, Lindley, Spires, Jones, Hennessy. We've already mentioned Strider and Raffield, and that doesn't include the guys coming in. Just with returning pieces, we do have a lot of innings coming back. And that's a good place to start. Pitching depth, we all know how important pitching depth is. We all know how lucky you need to be when it comes to the health of your pitching staff. But we do have a lot of key pieces coming back on the pitching side of things. So that's a good thing. Again, we return the two guys that threw the most innings for us on the starting side of things with Sharp and Clark, and that's a good place to start. And we return a number of key bullpen pieces and two young guys in Lindley and Askew who made starts for us in the middle of the week. Even Keyshawn made some weekend starts for us. So those guys will get better and better. So it's certainly a good place to start on the pitching side of things.
Is it maybe the most depth you've had coming back since you've been here?
We think so. Again, and that's always on paper, and we all know how that goes too. So depth on paper before you start the fall and you start the season, you're always going to look at the positives of returning innings and returning at bats, and you feel like on paper you're fairly deep, but injuries happen. and hopefully, again, we can keep guys healthy throughout the fall and going into the spring, and we don't have the setbacks. And we had a couple of them this year, but everybody has to deal with injuries. And guys like Strider and Raffield, I think those two guys are huge pieces for us. Is when will they be able to return? How effective will they be once they get on the mound to be able to add to what we do have coming back and what we have coming in?
If you're going to lose some pieces, would you rather it be hitters as opposed to pitchers? I mean, everybody talked about losing Beer and Williams last year, but you really didn't miss much of a beat offensively.
I think it's hard either way. I think position player wise, I think you have to be more patient if you have young position players and you're playing young position players. And I think with just what we lost on the infield, again, we lost our starting catcher, our starting shortstop, a second baseman, and Jordan Green that played an awful lot of baseball for us. Grayson Bird played some third, played some first, played some outfield. Justin Hawkins played a lot of third base for us at the end of the year. So we have some key losses on the offensive side of things. I do believe that with the guys that we have coming back, Briar Hawkins played a lot of baseball for us, played a lot of first base. We're probably going to stick him over at third in the fall. He was a high school shortstop second baseman. So we're probably going to play him over at third to see will that be an option for us. James Parker played a lot for us last year, got 50-plus at-bats, is playing all summer long in Wilmington at shortstop. Is a really good defender, needs the at-bats just to develop more as a hitter, but had some big at-bats for us as a true freshman. We have a young man in Pierce Gallo who is fairly highly touted, a long, lean, projectable infielder, shortstop out of the Atlanta area that's going to be coming in and battling for some opportunities there. Sam Hall is going to move into the infield. We'll put Sam Hall at shortstop and second base in the fall. Chad Ferry, another very talented athlete. I don't know if our fan base got to see just how athletic he is. He's more athletic than people realize. Another high school infielder. He could play some third and first base for us in the fall. So our outfield, we return a lot of outfielders. So we'll have a veteran group of outfielders out there. We also have a young man in Dylan Brewer who was drafted that could play outfield and infield, could play some first base. And then with Hackenberg coming back, Hackenberg's up in the Cape Cod League right now and has had a couple really good games, hit a home run, had a couple hits in his first start. And we have a young man, Jonathan French, who was drafted from Parkview High School out of Atlanta, who we think is special. He's coming in as well, and him and Hackenberg will battle that out behind the plate. So we do have some new pieces in the infield and behind the plate that we've got to replace. That's our biggest area of focus right now moving into the fall. We feel like, again, pitching-wise, we've got some pieces back, and we've got some good pieces coming in. We do feel like pitching depth could be a strength of ours. But, again, we got to keep those guys healthy, and those guys have to pitch well. The goal always is to go into the season and you have the same weekend rotation and the same guys in the same roles all year. That's how you develop consistency. We were unable to do that this year for a variety of reasons. Offensively, to me, is where going into the fall we've got some work to do as far as trying to figure out who's going to play where and what kind of team are we going to be on the offensive side of things.
You mentioned the Cape. How much do you think that'll help Robleski this summer, being up there and getting some?
He's certainly going to be challenged. He had a tough freshman year. Highly touted guy coming in here, was drafted out of high school, made some starts early, struggled, never really could find his rhythm after that. He's up in the Cape Cod League right now. That's going to be a heck of a challenge for a young man after his freshman year. A lot of freshmen don't get the opportunity to play in the Cape Cod League. It's mostly sophomores. So heck of a challenge for him. Excited to see what he's going to be able to do over the course of this summer and what he's going to look like when he comes back.
Two guys, Davis Sharp,
Mm-hmm.
offensive player a lot early in the year, later in the year not so much.
Right.
What's kind of your plan with him going forward?
It's a good question. I think Davis is too talented on both sides of the ball to take the bat out of his hand. What we saw throughout the spring was his velocity. He started to lose some velocity and pitchability, and we think that part of it could have been due to fatigue of trying to do both as a true freshman. The things that people don't see when you're a guy like Davis Sharp and you're hitting every day and you're also trying to follow through with your pitching routine, it's very difficult to set up a plan for him to work out. So we felt like he lost some strength over the course of the season trying to do both, so we tried to limit his at-bats late to get the most out of him on the pitching side of things, because we needed him, obviously, on the pitching side of things down the stretch. So I think a year under his belt, he's here this summer working out as well. He's not pitching and playing this summer. We felt like it would be beneficial for him to work out, get stronger, try to put on 10 or 15 pounds on that frame. And going into the fall, I think we'll have a really good idea of how to manage him better going into year 2. We didn't know going into last year, is he going to be able to hit for us? We knew he was going to be able to pitch for us. We'll have a better plan, I think, going into year 2 with him, and I think he'll physically be able to handle doing both better. But he's too good of a hitter to not be potentially an everyday bat for us. And also, we anticipate him being either a Friday or Saturday type starter after the year that he had. So I think mentally and physically he'll be more ready going into year 2 than he was, here in year 1. And he did an outstanding job in year 1 on both sides.
And Hackenberg, I think 5 at-bats maybe after some late April.
Mhm.
You had to ride Wilkie. But
Right.
hindsight 2020, do you wish you'd found a chance to maybe get him a few more swings in there?
Yeah, you always look back at the season, and there's always guys that you feel